basically leading you towards life, paving the way for you, saying, hey, everything's gonna be all right. Things are gonna be rough, things are gonna be good, but I'm gonna here for the highs and lows. Even when you're miles away from family, when you're miles away from friends, I'm always gonna be here for you. So my name is Andrew Evans. I'm born and raised out of Gaithersburg, Maryland. I go to the University of Mississippi as a business entrepreneurship major. I'm a freshman currently, just finished my first semester and doing very well so far.
How do you like Mississippi?
Absolutely love it. To be honest, I was going to go to the University of Tennessee, but my dad was born and raised in Memphis. My mom's from St. Louis. I've always known the South. Two of my uncles went to SEC schools. I was going to go to Tennessee. When I was at work, I got into Tennessee late June. I was committed to Ole Miss. Still absolutely love Ole Miss. Still recommend Ole Miss to people. It is a great place. Absolutely love it. Couldn't ask for more.
What's the best part about Ole Miss?
By far is the square. It's basically an entertainment district. It's where restaurants, bars, shopping. It's a very beautiful area, especially during Christmas. There's lights, wreaths, absolutely beautiful. They have a Christmas parade, usually a week before final starts. It's absolutely beautiful. Very great place to be.
That's different from the Grove where they do the football
Correct.
tailgate.
So the Grove is basically just this huge green space, just a huge green space for tailgating events, and it's in the square middle of campus. It's where football tailgates take place, and you'll just see during game days it's just a sea of tents. You'll see fraternity tents, you'll see sorority tents, you'll see family tents, you'll see tents that from people who are, it says people from Tupelo, Mississippi, or people all the way from DC or Jersey, and it's a culmination of people from all over the country. It's about 150,000 people come. It is jam-packed to the gills. It is a place to be every Saturday.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying Ole Miss. Definitely sounds like a lot of fun for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So let's kind of transition a little bit and talk a little about your faith journey. What's your faith background been like? Has it been something kind of lifelong or something you've kind of, picked up later in life?
So I was born and raised as a Catholic. When I was younger, I went to the St. Elizabeth Catholic school down in Rockville. I did what's called a Sunday school, which basically means I would come Sunday morning, I'd be there for about 2 hours, a teacher and a classroom full of kids who'd be taught about the Bible, about Jesus, about all that type of stuff. And to be honest, I wasn't really into it at the time because I thought it was a waste of my time. I wasn't really interested, I wasn't invested. I went to Mass all the time, but it didn't really make sense to me as a kid because Catholicism is very, very much older audience. It's a lot, I was the youngest person always in the room, which is, okay, but at the time I just didn't understand, where, what it was. But, from about 8th grade of middle school to sophomore year of high school, I just completely diminished it from my life. I would say, even though I went to a Catholic high school, I didn't really practice the faith, but from junior year, senior year now, while I was a freshman in college, it is a lot better. I'm now in a lot of Bible studies at my college. I did, Bible studies at my high school. I've always enjoyed doing Bible studies. I'm okay with masses here and there, but I've always done Bible studies that really helped me out the most. And there's what's called Ole Miss Crew, which means basically there's this guy named Joel who runs it. It is basically Christian and Catholics who meet up together, do events, do social events. It's a great time. The first event I went to was a cookout that they did outside of my dorm, which was a ton of fun. I met friends that I'm still very close with to this day. Mainly a bunch of guys from Knoxville, Tennessee, and girls from North Carolina. And yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Why were you the youngest one at your Sunday school? Is it just because there are no other kids your age? Or?
No. It was the kids my age. It's just Catholicism is a very old religion. Christian is a lot more younger. Typically, it's a lot more widespread, while Catholicism is very old. And basically, I was the youngest at a Mass usually. When I was 14, 15, I was the youngest always, while I was a lot older, demographic.
Okay, got you. Now, what is the typical Bible study crew like? How does it typically go? What's the order?
So I have 2 Bible studies I'm a part of. One with my fraternity, which is Beta Theta Pi fraternity, Beta Beta chapter out of Ole Miss, and Ole Miss Crew. So my fraternity one we host at the house. It is usually on the second floor. It's all the chairs around. We have speaker come in, they'll talk, we'll have a passage we talk about, and then what it means to us, and then how we, implement it in our college lives especially. While Ole Miss Crew is, hundreds of people coming together to do social events. Now they'll do subgroups for gender, because for males and females, because college life is much different between both of them, especially in Ole Miss and where people come from. Because I'm from up north. Like, I tell people I'm from Maryland, they're like, where is that? And I'll be like, seriously? Like, some people do not know where the state of Maryland is. And especially when I tell them the city it is, they're like, never heard of it, which is obvious. That makes sense. But, like, people come together, they'll be like, it was really the number one thing is that a lot of people are out of state. Not many people are from Mississippi, to be completely honest. Most people in Mississippi do not go to Ole Miss, they usually go to Mississippi State. But it's mostly a lot of out-of-state kids. And they'll be like, it's hard for me implementing because I'm so far away from home, but I absolutely love it here. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. But I guess you kind of found your people from out of state, even though, because you're one of those out of state people, and you kind of find other people. That's awesome. Let's kind of back up a little bit to high school, because that's kind of where you mentioned you first kind of started really getting into the Bible study. What got you into the Bible studies at high school, and what made you want to continue that in Ole Miss? You must have liked it enough, obviously, to do 2 now at Ole Miss.
So junior year summer, I was introduced. I was friends with Lucas Benavides at the time. I wasn't very close with him, but I was friends with him, and he was like, "Hey, we have this Bible study going on. If you'd be interested," and I'll be like, "You know what? I've not done well in my faith. I'll be interested in doing it." And I think the first one that we did was at the only bagel bakery down the street, and basically I absolutely loved it. I really did. I thought it was very impactful for my life, and I strayed away from my faith for a long time. And then coming back into it was kind of a good sign to be like, hey, keep going at this. And we kept doing it at the Grove, at the Grotto, at Good Counsel. Completely loved it each and every time. I always came back, and especially during our Thanksgiving break, Lucas was like, hey, we're going to have a study at the Grotto again. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. We did it. It was great catching up with people that I haven't seen in months, and it was an absolute fun time. And it led to me joining a lot of the Bible studies back at Ole Miss.
Okay, got you. Do you prefer kind of the more smaller, intimate Bible studies as opposed to maybe say a larger mass where it's catered to a larger group, or versus you can kind of get something more individualized at a Bible study?
I think with Bible studies is you generally get to learn about the Bible a lot more than mass. I think mass is just, a lot of people, it's too formal, or it's a lot too much to understand. For a lot of people like it. A lot of people think it's great to be with a bunch of people who are in the same faith as you. But with Bible studies, it's a lot more intimate. It's a lot, to actually grasp the idea, to actually implement it into your life, and actually think about it. Because with mass, it's keeps going. It's 45 minutes. It's very fast. It's they keep talking. They talk about something and they move on, and you're not fully able to grasp what they just said and talk about it with others. It's just, okay, here we go. Let's go to the next thing and the next thing. Okay, we gotta do this service. Okay, we gotta go to this, do this.
What do you prefer?
By far, Bible studies.
Okay.
By far.
So it's more communal. It's not
Yes.
just 1, 2, order.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. What's been one of your, if you can recall, one of the lessons you've learned, either from the Good Counsel Bible Studies or Crew or with the fraternity at Ole Miss? Is there a particular lesson or key point that kind of sticks out?
I think mainly, especially at the age that I am now, is being able to maintain your faith with having such a busy schedule. At college, you are, like they say you have a lot of free time. I agree with that, but you have so much stuff that you have to implement with it. Like, I'm done with class at 2:30. That does not mean I'm done for the day. I have to study, I have to work out, I have to have dinner, I have to have food, I gotta do stuff for my internship, I gotta, do all those kinds of things. And, being able to implement faith is very hard when you're just, the ball keeps on going, and it's very hard to implement it. Now, for me personally, I'm glad that my fraternity does do Bible studies, because it's able for me to go during lunch, have it, and then go to class, because they do host lunch. You have lunch, you have the Bible study, go to class, and then I'm on my way.
Yeah, it's a good, break in the middle of the day too. It's kind of like, okay, you through the morning kind of reset, probably puts you in a good space for the afternoon. Okay, it's awesome. What's one of your favorite verses, if you have one, or passages?
So, I'm not the biggest verse guy, to be completely honest. I just don't think there's one that, that like implements to my life or I look at it every day. I'm not like that. I have on my phone, it's called the Bible app, and so every time I open it, it gives me new reading for the day, which is what I do every morning when I wake up. And then, to be honest, I connect to the Bible, yes, Bible studies, but it's also through music, which I know sounds very odd, but it's how I connect with Jesus on a way like that, especially with the song, the Big Revival by Kenny Chesney. That's one song I would definitely implement into your, daily life.
What is it about music that kind of appeals to you? Because not everybody's a verse guy, but music is universal, can kind of speak to everybody. What does that kind of do for you?
Well, it's just the moment of when I'm driving my car, I'm alone, I have the windows down, especially in the summer, and you just have music and you just feel connected with nature, with God, with that sense of spirit, and it's like life feels all well at that point.
So you kind of find God in, I would say unconventional, but different places in
Correct.
nature,
Yeah.
and feeling the wind coming down your hair.
Yeah, of course. Like the beach, I would say is definitely the hugest one for me. Because I have a place in Bethany, I go down there for the summer. I always have just like after dinner, I'll go on a long walk, sit on the beach, just play some music, and just sit there for like an hour and a half and just chill.
Yeah, it's always good to kind of take a time to decompress and find that there's a lot of, you talk about the simple things, and you're like, oh, this is really nice, but you would take it for granted if you're just running around, like you said, all the things you have to do when you're in college, when you're not, be able to kind of appreciate those things. That's awesome. So, moving on here, if somebody were to ask you, why do you love Jesus? What would you kind of say to them?
I would say it's basically like a hand out there. It's basically leading you towards life, paving the way for you, saying, hey, everything's gonna be all right. It's basically another type of, parental figure for myself to be like, hey, this is how life's gonna be. I'm gonna help you through it. Things are gonna be rough, things are gonna be good, but I'm gonna be here for the highs and lows, and you're not gonna be alone. Even when you're miles away from family, when you're miles away from friends, or you're completely out of a completely different state or area, I'm always gonna be here for you.
Yeah, has Jesus kind of been that, constant for you, especially down in Ole Miss? Obviously you've met a lot of great people there and you're enjoying it and adjustment, but, do you find that sometimes you're kind of maybe more reliant on faith than normal to kind of get you through the homesickness? Because you mentioned he's the constant, he's always there.
So I actually I don't get homesickness, which sounds really weird. I worked as a camp counselor and in Arapahoe, North Carolina, which is called Camp Siegel. I'm used to being away from my parents for a long time. I still contact them and, I do miss them, but I don't get overly homesick where I'm like, I have to be home right now. But that's, I do have those sad parts where I'm like, hey, I just want to see my parents, and God's always very like, hey, we'll get through it together. You're going to see him in a couple weeks. It's going to be all good.
Yeah, I don't think it's weird to not be homesickness. Obviously with your experiences, you're used to it. Yeah. Have there been other times, where a specific time or two where you're like, your faith has kind of been important? Has there been a time when you kind of had like a struggle in your life, where faith's kind of played a role in helping you get through it?
Definitely finals week, that is for sure. I've never in my life walked into a library and it was just full of people, just packed to the brim, completely full. I walked in to Ole Miss's library, which is huge. It is a big library. It is gigantic. And I walk into it, every seat is filled, every conference room is booked, every tutor, every, parent, whatever, guidance is booked. And even when I go to my dorm, so my dorm has these lounge and also these study rooms, they're completely booked. Everything is just stress out the wazoo. It's not like finals or midterms like in high school where to be completely honest, agri council, the midterms and finals there did not worth as much as the ones in college. They just don't. The ones in college are either 30 to 50% of your grade. For example, like for my English class, I had to make a 15-minute video on an argumentative essay on the fitness industry and the supplements and how it's not regulated by the FDA. And also make a 10-page essay, make a reflective essay on it, and then another essay about my semester at Ole Miss for that class. So it's just a lot of stress, and being able to have God with me through that process, it's a long week. And what I did not know was I had 5 exams, which I thought was completely normal at the time. And all the guys were like, "You have 5?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Yeah, we only have 2 to 3. I'm like, "That's just crazy to me that I have to do it through 5. But I got through it. I did fantastic with my grades. I made honors for a semester, which is huge for that place. I did a very good job, and God was there with me the whole time.
That's a great example because it's something where it was new for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was different. You said finals in high school is not the same as finals in college. Everyone is panicked. The stress is there, but kind of you're being able to kind of navigate through the stress and persevere. Because that sounds like a whole lot. That's 4 different essays.
Yeah, it was ridiculous
for a final.
It was just for a writing 101 class.
Yeah,
just for writing 101.
And that's not even probably. I'm assuming you had other stuff to do during the semester.
Biology. I'm done with that class. That thing is crap. I did that. I did math, business calculus. I did. I know this might sound crazy, but I had a cinema class that was actually leveled to be extremely hard, and our final exam was 50% worth of our grade, which was just near impossible. Which I don't even know how I got in that class, but we did, persevered, and we got through it.
What did they make you do for a cinema final? Watch a movie or anything?
No, and I know that might sound like it is, but no. So basically, there's techniques that you have to learn through the cinema industry, and you have to implement it. And it was actually a very difficult class, I would say. A lot of people would think it's just an easy elective. It was actually pretty difficult, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, you persevered, you got through it, and you made honors. So look at you. Good for you. Good for you. Not bad for first year.
No, not at all.
We'll take it for sure. Cool. Kind of hitting the home stretch here. You obviously been in the faith all your life. Obviously, as you've gotten older, you've been more and more closer to God through Bible studies, both in Maryland and in Mississippi. But what might you say to someone who may be kind of starting out on their journey, or may have kind of started and then kind of gone off track? What would you kind of say to them?
I would say, if you're trying to find your step, is to find what you like. Don't force yourself into something you don't like. If you don't like mass, don't go to them. If you don't like Bible studies, don't go to them. If you only like personal reflection and then prayer, do that. That's all you like to do. Find something that works. Find something that fits in your schedule that's not too long, but not too invaluable that's not going to do anything. For example, just reading one passage a day and then not reflecting on it is just a waste of time. If you just read the Bible to read it, then you're not taking anything away from it. You got to reflect on it. You got to implement it. And that's the big thing. Finding something that works for you. Finding something that's not going to be oh my God, this is a chore. Find something that's hey, this means a lot to me. I want to do it every day and do it.
You settled on the Bible studies. So, Dad, were you kind of trying to find that thing that worked for you? And Bible studies, was that for you?
I would believe so. I would say the masses I absolutely despised. I'm going to be honest with you. They were very long. They were extremely tedious. I understand why we did them for as a community, but I just thought they weren't something for me. And so when Lucas introduced me with the Bible study, absolutely, I absolutely loved it. And I think, as well as daily prayers, what I do, and reflection on, a Bible app, I would, suggest that.
Okay, awesome. Can we see an example of what's a reflection for today?
So today is John 10:30, which is I and the Father are one, which means, God is with me. God is, we're in this together. We're a team. We're going to be through it thick and thin. We're going to be highs and lows. That's what I implement every day. And another one, this is yesterday's, was blessed are those who keep his statutes, who seek him with their whole heart. I'm going to be honest, this one was very hard for me to understand a little bit, but is that if you seek them with your whole heart, if you give your full intention, your full drive foot forward, you're going to build a better connection with them. You're going you'll be better overall in life.
Say it again, blessed are the statutes.
Blessed are those who keep his statutes, who seek him with their whole heart. Psalms 119:2.
Okay, seeking God with your whole heart. I mean, that's kind of hard in itself
Yeah.
because there's going to be a lot of things that will seek you, and a lot of things that will be a lot easier to seek.
Mm-hmm.
They're appealing, they're more flashy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What does it kind of mean to you to kind of seek God with your whole heart? Why did you decide as somebody do that? And it's easier said than done for sure.
It's having the mindset of how can I serve God, how can I love Him. I think the biggest thing is prayer. I think showing your mind like, hey, I pray for those who are don't have food on the table, who are not financially stable, who don't have presents for Christmas this year. And it's seeking good for all in the world, I would say.
Okay, that's a good interpretation. I like those reflections because they kind of give you a verse and it's something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take that, because I think that's something I could do, reading, not just reading it, but then reflecting on it and kind of building upon it.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you sharing that. And kind of to wrap things up along those lines, kind of challenge you a little bit to keep up what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What's one, I like to call these I will statements, which is, a statement that, something that you want to do to build upon your faith life. What might be an I will statement that you might want to work towards going forward?
Oh, wow, that's a good one, actually. Ooh. I've always wanted to create a club in high school or Ole Miss to be like, I want to be able to spread to people. I've always been a good follower and always a good listener, but over the years I've been able to spread information, spread, the gospel, spread, stuff like that, and that's what I want to do. Like, I would love to create a Catholic club or something in the Ole Miss community where I can be able to spread my learnings and my type of interpretations towards people and be able to spread it.
What would make your club different from the Bible studies of your friends?
I wouldn't say it would be Bible studies. I think, obviously I was implementing Bible studies. I think that's the big thing to get into it, I think you got to talk about it with other people. I think if you just think in your mind, you're never going to learn anything from others. And that's the big thing. And so I think, showing your journey of where you started, where you have in the middle, where you are now, and where you're going to be in the future is a big thing. And I think that's where my club would be implementing.
So kind of like an overall life journey.
Correct.
What's that's a great goal. I like that. What's one small step you could kind of do to head towards that goal?
Obviously just make it, to, tell people, hey, I got this going on, if you'd be interested, I'll be hosting it upstairs in my fraternity house. And I think, getting people who I know and love to, experience it first, we'll be able to have a good first step to see if it'll be good for the Ole Miss community.
That's awesome. If people they're Ole Miss people watching that may want to be interested, how can they get in touch with you?
Just text me at 301-802-4119. There you go.
What's Instagram?
Andrew Evans. It's as easy as it could be.
Okay, easy enough.
There you go.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, man.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for sharing about your faith journey. I took a lot from this. I think for me, the one thing is not just reading the word, but then reflecting upon it. What does it mean? Because then that will help me kind of grow in my faith. So,
Perfect.
yeah, I appreciate you, boss. I hope to have you back soon, man.
Of course. Thank you.